The morning sun was soft and golden, spilling light across the small, cramped apartment where the maid lived with her young son. The apartment was simple, almost bare, with worn-out furniture and peeling paint, but it was filled with love. The mother moved quietly around the tiny kitchen, preparing breakfast, her mind busy with chores and bills. She was used to the early mornings and long days, and her body carried the strength of years of hard work. Her son sat at the old piano that had been in their home for as long as he could remember. The keys were yellowed and some were chipped, but he treated them as if they were the finest instrument in the world. His small fingers moved across them gracefully, producing melodies that seemed far older and wiser than the boy himself. Music was his escape, his joy, and the way he understood the world. Each note carried a story, a feeling, and a hope that life might one day be kinder to him. The mother paused at the doorway, watching him for a moment. She had always known he was special. Even when he was a tiny child, he would hum tunes that made her stop and listen. She had no money for proper lessons, no way to buy sheet music or a fancy piano. Yet the boy's talent could not be contained by their small apartment or by the hardships around them. She believed in him more than anyone else ever had. Life for them was not easy. The mother worked tirelessly as a maid in a grand mansion owned by a wealthy family. Every day she scrubbed floors, polished furniture, and cleaned rooms that smelled of luxury and money. The work was hard, but she never complained, knowing it was the only way she could provide for her son. She often told him to follow his heart, to keep playing, and to never give up on the music that brought him happiness. The mansion where she worked was the opposite of their tiny home. High ceilings, chandeliers, and polished marble floors reflected wealth that seemed endless. The family who lived there was powerful, respected, and admired, but they were distant and often cold. The billionaire head of the household was known to be strict and proud, someone who valued wealth and status above all else. The maid's presence in the mansion was always quiet and unnoticed, much like the other staff who moved like shadows between rooms. One morning, as she finished her work in the mansion, the maid heard that her son might be needed to play the piano. It was unusual, as the billionaire rarely paid attention to anyone outside his circle, especially not the children of his staff. She felt a mix of excitement and worry. This could be an opportunity for her son, a chance to show even a small part of the talent she knew he had. But she also feared that no one would notice, that his music would be just background noise for the wealthy guests who often visited the mansion. When her son arrived at the mansion, he felt nervous. The piano in the grand hall was enormous, polished to perfection, and unlike anything he had ever touched. The room was vast, filled with sunlight streaming through tall windows, casting reflections on the marble floors. He took a deep breath, placed his fingers on the keys, and began to play. The first notes were soft, hesitant, but soon they grew confident, flowing into melodies that seemed to fill every corner of the room. The guests and staff paused to listen. Some whispered to each other, noting how a young boy could play so beautifully. But the billionaire, seated in his armchair with a glass of expensive wine, barely looked up. To him, this was just a child doing a small favor, another detail in a world that revolved around his wealth. He did not see the magic in the boy's fingers, the passion in each note, or the beauty of the music that seemed to speak from the heart. Despite the lack of recognition, the boy played with everything he had. He imagined the music reaching places it had never gone, touching lives beyond the walls of the mansion. He thought of his mother, the sacrifices she made, and the dreams they shared. With each note, he poured his soul into the piano, creating a melody that was more than just sound. It was a story of hope, love, and resilience. After the brief performance, the boy quietly left the piano and waited for the adults to speak. The guests clapped politely, a gentle applause that lacked the wonder his playing deserved. The billionaire nodded once, barely acknowledging him, and turned back to his conversation as if nothing significant had occurred. The boy felt a twinge of disappointment, but he did not let it show. He had played not for recognition, but because the music was a part of him, and it always would be. Back home, the boy resumed his practice. The apartment, though small and plain, felt like the safest place in the world. Here no one judged him, no one ignored him, and he could play freely without fear or expectation. The mother listened from the kitchen, her heart swelling with pride. She knew that the world might not yet see what she had always known. Her son was extraordinary. Days turned into weeks, and the routine continued. The boy practiced diligently, refining his skill, experimenting with new tunes and pouring emotion into every piece he played. The mansion remained largely indifferent to his talent, but the boy's determination never wavered. Each note was a small victory, a silent declaration that his gift could not be ignored forever. The mother watched her son grow, both in skill and confidence. She encouraged him gently, reminding him that true talent does not depend on recognition. It is a gift meant to be cherished and shared, no matter how small the audience. Her words were simple, but they carried the weight of experience, of someone who had seen hardship and yet never lost hope. One evening, as the sun set and bathed the city in warm colors, the boy played a piece that he had composed himself. The melody was complex yet tender, filled with emotion and life. It spoke of dreams, struggles, and the quiet strength found in love and family. The mother sat silently, tears in her eyes, knowing that her son's music was extraordinary, even if the world did not yet understand. In that small apartment, surrounded by worn furniture and the soft glow of the evening light, the boy's music filled the room. It was a reminder that talent cannot be hidden, that passion cannot be silenced, and that even in the humblest of places, greatness can be born. The mother and son shared a quiet understanding, a bond strengthened by music and hope, knowing that one day, the world would hear the melodies that had lived in their hearts all along. The story of a young boy with a gift was just beginning, and though the billionaire had yet to notice him, the boy's journey had already started. Each practice, each note, each moment of dedication was a step toward a future where his talent could no longer be overlooked. And so, in the quiet corners of a small apartment, a remarkable story began to unfold, led by the music of a young boy who would one day play for more than just polite applause. The boy's life continued in its quiet rhythm. Each morning, he would wake early and practice at the piano in their small apartment, while his mother prepared for her long day of work. The music filled the modest space with warmth and light, echoing against the bare walls and worn furniture. Though the world outside was indifferent, inside their home every note mattered, every melody told a story, and every practice strengthened the boy's growing confidence. One day, while the mother worked in the mansion, she overheard a conversation between the billionaire and some of his guests. They were planning a private gathering and needed music to entertain the visitors. The mother's heart skipped a beat when she realized that her son might be asked to play. It was not an official invitation or recognition of his talent, just a request to perform a few pieces for amusement. Still, it was an opportunity, small but real, and she wanted him to go. When the boy arrived at the mansion, he felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The grand piano awaited him, polished and gleaming in the sunlight that poured through the tall windows. The room smelled faintly of polished wood and flowers, and the atmosphere was heavy with wealth and formality. He straightened his back and took a deep breath, placing his fingers carefully on the keys. His heart raced, but he knew he had to play with everything he had. As he began to play, soft, delicate notes floated into the air. At first they were hesitant, but soon the boy grew confident, letting the music flow naturally. The melodies were beautiful, intricate, and full of emotion. Some of the guests paused, glancing at him in surprise. They whispered among themselves, admiring how a young boy could play with such skill. But the billionaire hardly looked up. He sipped his wine and spoke quietly to a companion, seemingly unaware of the talent before him. To him, the music was just background noise, a minor detail in the opulence of his home. Despite the lack of attention, the boy played as if the music were alive. He imagined it reaching hearts, touching lives, and spreading joy beyond the walls of the mansion. Each note carried his feelings, hope, dreams, and the quiet determination to be recognized one day. The boy was not playing for applause or praise. He was playing because the music was a part of him, something no one could take away. After the brief performance, the guests clapped politely, a soft and restrained applause. The boy waited, his small hands resting on the piano, hoping for a word of encouragement or a smile. But the billionaire simply nodded and returned to his conversation, unaware of the magic he had just heard. The boy felt a flicker of disappointment, but he did not let it show. He had played with all his heart, and that was enough for him. Returning home, the boy felt a mix of emotions: pride in what he had achieved, and sadness that no one had truly noticed. His mother greeted him with a warm smile, sensing his inner turmoil. She reminded him gently that true talent is not measured by recognition alone. The world may not always see what is most precious, but that does not make it any less valuable. Her words were soft but full of wisdom, and the boy listened, drawing strength from her faith in him. The next days were filled with practice and small moments of inspiration. The boy began experimenting with new compositions, trying melodies that had never been heard before. He played with feeling, imagining stories and emotions that could not be expressed in words. Sometimes he would close his eyes and lose himself completely in the music, forgetting the world around him. The apartment became a sanctuary where creativity flowed freely, and no one could diminish his gift. Meanwhile, the mansion continued to operate in its world of wealth and routine. The billionaire remained unaware of the boy's growing skill. When asked by guests or staff about the piano music, he would dismiss it lightly, never realizing the extraordinary talent behind it. The boy's performances were treated as minor amusements, small distractions between conversations and wine glasses. But each time he played, he grew stronger, more confident and more determined to share his gift with the world. The boy began noticing small things during these visits. How the light hit the piano, the way the guests' expressions changed with different melodies, and the subtle hints of emotion that sometimes escaped even the richest and most guarded hearts. He learned to read the room, to adjust his playing, and to express stories through his music. Each visit to the mansion became a lesson, not just in skill, but in understanding people and the power of emotion. One afternoon, a new guest arrived at the mansion, a kind, attentive woman who had a background in music. She listened quietly as the boy played, her eyes widening with genuine surprise and admiration. She approached him after the performance and spoke in a gentle voice, praising his skill and encouraging him to pursue formal lessons. For the first time, someone outside his family recognized the boy's talent as something extraordinary. The boy felt a surge of hope and inspiration, realizing that perhaps the world could see his gift after all. The billionaire, noticing the conversation, raised an eyebrow but did not fully understand the significance. To him, the boy was still just a child performing a favor, a small detail in his meticulously controlled world. Yet the seed of recognition had been planted, and the boy's talent was beginning to ripple beyond the walls of the mansion. The guest's encouragement meant more than he could ever know, and it fueled his determination to continue growing, practicing, and creating. At home, the boy poured himself into his music with renewed energy. He explored new styles, learned complex pieces from memory, and even began composing original works. His fingers danced across the piano keys with grace and precision, and his music began to carry a depth and emotion that captivated anyone who heard it. The mother watched him with quiet pride, knowing that the boy's journey was just beginning, and that one day, his talent would demand the attention it deserved. The contrast between the two worlds, the mansion and their humble apartment, became clearer with each passing day. In the mansion, wealth and status were celebrated and talent was often overlooked. In their home, love, dedication, and passion flourished, creating a space where the boy could grow without limits. The boy learned that true excellence does not rely on recognition alone, and that the hardest work often goes unseen by those who are too busy with their own lives. Even though the billionaire had yet to notice the full extent of the boy's skill, the young musician remained undeterred. He played for the joy of music, for the love of his craft, and for the hope that someday, someone would truly see him. Each performance, each note, and each melody became a step toward that future. He understood that talent requires patience, perseverance, and a deep belief in oneself, even when the world seems indifferent. Over time, the boy's music began to create small ripples. Other staff members at the mansion started whispering about his talent, sharing stories of his skill and dedication. Though the billionaire remained focused on wealth and appearances, the boy's reputation quietly grew. Word of his extraordinary ability spread in hushed tones, reaching ears that might one day open doors to opportunities he had never imagined. The boy's life was a balance between two worlds: the modest apartment where love and music flourished, and the mansion where wealth and indifference reigned. He learned to navigate both, taking lessons from each experience and allowing his talent to grow despite the challenges. With his mother's unwavering support and the quiet encouragement of those who recognized his gift, he continued to play with passion, skill, and heart. Through it all, the boy never lost sight of why he played. Music was not a tool for fame or wealth. It was an expression of his soul, a way to communicate feelings too deep for words. Every practice session, every performance, and every composition was a testament to his dedication and love for the art. And though recognition from the billionaire remained elusive, the boy understood that the true reward lay in the music itself, in the joy it brought to him and those who truly listened. And so, life continued with its quiet rhythm, the boy's talent growing stronger with each passing day. The mansion remained largely indifferent, but the boy's heart was full, his fingers dancing across the keys with skill and passion. The world may not yet fully see him, but the music was already beginning to speak, carrying his story, his dreams, and his hope into the future. One day he knew the music would reach ears and hearts that would finally understand the extraordinary gift he had nurtured in the shadows. And the journey that had started so quietly would become a story the world could not ignore. The boy's life had settled into a quiet rhythm of practice, school, and small visits to the mansion. Each day he grew more skilled, more confident, and more in love with music. Even though the billionaire still did not fully recognize his talent, the boy was learning lessons beyond mere notes and melodies. He was learning patience, resilience, and the quiet power of dedication. At home, the mother always encouraged him. She listened to his compositions, offering gentle suggestions and praising the beauty she saw in every piece. She had no formal music education herself, but she had a deep understanding of the boy's heart and the power of his gift. Every time he played, she felt a mixture of pride and hope, knowing that his talent was extraordinary and that someday the world would have to notice. The boy's practice sessions were long and intense. He played scales over and over, perfecting each note, then moved on to more complex pieces. Sometimes he would stay up late, lit only by a small lamp, his fingers flying over the keys while he lost himself in the music. Each note was an expression of his feelings, his joy, his sadness, and his dreams for a future he could not yet fully see. Music had become not just a skill but a language for him, a way to express emotions too deep for words. The mansion remained a place of contrast. The luxurious rooms, glittering chandeliers, and polished floors were filled with people who valued wealth and appearances above all else. The billionaire continued to focus on his own world, largely indifferent to the young boy's talent. The staff whispered among themselves about his skill, but the boy remained largely unnoticed by the one person whose recognition could change his life. Still, he did not let this discourage him. He knew that true talent did not need immediate recognition. It needed persistence, practice, and heart. One day, the boy was asked to play for a small gathering at the mansion. The billionaire was hosting a few acquaintances, and music was expected to fill the background. The boy approached the grand piano with a mixture of excitement and nerves. He had played in this room many times, yet each time felt different. Today, he decided to play with all his soul, allowing the music to speak for him without any thought of applause or approval. As his fingers moved across the keys, the room changed. The soft flowing notes caught the attention of the guests, who paused their conversations to listen. Some of them exchanged looks of surprise, realizing that this young boy was playing with a skill far beyond his age. The music carried emotion, telling stories without words, filling the room with something that could not be bought or commanded. The billionaire, as usual, remained largely unconcerned. He sipped his drink, distracted by conversations and the minor details of hosting. Yet even he could not completely ignore the music. There were moments when he glanced at the boy, a flicker of curiosity crossing his face. He did not understand the depth of what he was hearing, but there was a part of him that sensed something unusual, something beyond the ordinary. After the performance, a guest who had a background in music approached the boy. She spoke to him kindly, praising his skill and encouraging him to continue developing his talent. She suggested finding formal lessons and exploring opportunities that could nurture his gift. The boy listened with wide eyes, a mixture of hope and disbelief. For the first time, someone outside his immediate family had truly recognized his talent as something remarkable. He felt a spark of inspiration, imagining a future where his music could reach many people. Back at home, he shared the encounter with his mother. They spoke long into the evening, discussing possibilities, dreams, and the dedication required to achieve them. The mother reminded him gently that opportunities might come slowly and that not everyone would see his talent immediately. Yet she encouraged him to continue practicing, to keep his passion alive, and to never let anyone's indifference diminish the joy he found in music. The boy's determination grew stronger. He began to challenge himself with more difficult pieces, experimenting with composition and playing for longer periods each day. The small apartment became a workshop of creativity, filled with music that carried emotion, storytelling, and imagination. Each performance, even in solitude, was a step forward, a building block in the path toward recognition and personal growth. School presented its own challenges. The boy faced classmates who did not understand his dedication and occasionally mocked him for spending so much time at the piano. Yet he did not waver. He found strength in his music and in the encouragement of his mother, who reminded him that true excellence often faces misunderstanding before it is celebrated. He learned to balance school, practice, and home life, developing discipline and resilience that would serve him in the years to come. As weeks passed, the boy's talent began to draw attention in subtle ways. Other staff members in the mansion quietly admired his skill, sometimes sneaking moments to listen when he played. Stories of his exceptional ability began to circulate, reaching ears that might one day provide opportunities for lessons, performances, or competitions. Though the billionaire remained largely unaware, the boy's reputation was quietly growing in the corners of the world he inhabited. One day, the boy received a letter from a local music school. A teacher who had heard about his talent wanted to meet him and discuss possible lessons. The boy could hardly contain his excitement. He shared the news with his mother, who embraced him with pride. Together, they discussed the possibility of lessons and the chance to develop his skill further. This small but significant step represented a turning point, a moment where the boy's talent began to be formally recognized. Visits to the mansion continued, each performance reinforcing his skills and confidence. The boy began to understand the nuances of playing for an audience, adjusting his expression, timing, and emotion to communicate more effectively through his music. Each note was no longer just sound. It was a story, a connection, and an expression of his inner self. The guests who listened were captivated, and the staff who had once whispered began to recognize the extraordinary talent that had been hiding in plain sight. Despite the progress, the billionaire's indifference remained a source of quiet tension. He continued to treat the boy as just another child performing a minor favor, unaware of the brilliance before him. The boy, however, did not dwell on this. He understood that recognition could come in many forms and that true mastery and dedication were their own rewards. He focused on growth, learning, and expression, knowing that talent and persistence were more powerful than any immediate acknowledgement. In the apartment, the boy's music continued to flourish. He composed original pieces, blending emotion, creativity, and technical skill. His mother listened, offering encouragement and gentle advice. Their bond grew stronger, rooted in shared dreams, sacrifices, and the quiet understanding that the boy's talent was extraordinary. They celebrated small victories together, knowing that each step brought them closer to a future filled with possibility. The boy began to dream bigger. He imagined performing on stages, sharing his music with audiences far beyond the walls of the mansion. He pictured people listening with rapt attention, moved by the melodies he created from his heart. These dreams fueled his practice, pushing him to explore new techniques, experiment with composition, and express emotion through every note he played. Even as he practiced and performed, the boy remained humble and kind. He understood that his talent was a gift, one that required dedication, patience, and respect. He treated his audience, whether staff or guests, with warmth and sincerity, letting the music speak before words could interfere. This humility, paired with his skill, made his performances unforgettable, even to those who only caught a glimpse. The boy's journey was no longer just about playing piano. It had become a story of growth, perseverance, and the quiet triumph of talent over neglect. Each day brought new lessons, challenges, and opportunities, and he embraced them with determination. The mansion continued to exist as a place of wealth and indifference, but the boy's music had begun to leave a mark, reaching hearts and minds in ways the billionaire could not yet comprehend. Through it all, the boy's focus remained on his music. He practiced diligently, played with emotion, and dreamed boldly. Recognition from the outside world might come slowly, but he knew that his gift was extraordinary and that the effort he invested would eventually be rewarded. With the unwavering support of his mother and the growing acknowledgement of those who appreciated true talent, The boy's journey continued, each note a step toward the future he had long imagined. And so, life moved forward in its quiet, determined rhythm. The boy's music grew richer, more expressive, and more powerful with each passing day. The mansion, with all its wealth and authority, remained largely unaware of the genius in their midst. But the boy and his mother knew the truth. Talent cannot remain hidden forever. Every practice, every performance, and every melody was a testament to the extraordinary skill that would one day shine for the world to see. The boy had grown more confident in his music, and each day he pushed himself further. His small apartment was always filled with sound, melodies weaving through the rooms like sunlight. His mother watched quietly, proud and amazed at how much he had learned and grown. Even without proper lessons, the boy's talent had flourished. Each practice, each melody, was a step toward the future he dreamed of. One day, something changed at the mansion. A guest arrived who was a well-known music teacher. She had heard rumors of a boy with extraordinary talent living in the city and wanted to meet him. The news spread quickly among the staff, who were excited but nervous. They whispered to each other, wondering if this could finally be the opportunity the boy had been waiting for. The maid felt a mix of excitement and anxiety, hoping that her son would be given the chance he deserved. When the boy was asked to play for the guest, he felt both nervous and excited. The grand piano in the mansion's music room stood before him, polished and perfect. The boy approached it, his fingers hovering above the keys. He took a deep breath and began to play. The room was instantly filled with sound, the music flowing naturally, expressing emotion that went beyond words. The teacher listened in silence, her eyes widening as she recognized the skill, depth and passion in the boy's playing. She had seen many talented students, but few with the level of natural ability and emotional expression he possessed. She approached him with a gentle smile, praising his technique and the way he poured his heart into the music. She spoke of opportunities for formal lessons, competitions and performances, and the boy listened in awe, realizing that the world might finally begin to see what he could do. The billionaire, sitting in the corner of the room, remained largely uninterested at first. He had grown accustomed to the boy's playing during gatherings and considered it a small detail, a background for his events. But as he watched the teacher's reaction, he began to notice something different. She was clearly impressed, and she spoke with genuine admiration. A flicker of curiosity crossed his face. Perhaps there was more to the boy than he had realized. After the meeting, the boy returned home, his heart racing with excitement and hope. He told his mother everything, describing the teacher's praise and the possibilities she had mentioned. They talked late into the evening, discussing the potential for lessons, competitions, and the chance to share his music with a wider audience. The mother felt a surge of pride and hope. She had always believed in her son's talent, and now someone else saw it too. In the following weeks, the boy began formal lessons with the teacher. The sessions were challenging, pushing him to refine his technique, explore new styles, and develop his understanding of music. He learned to read sheet music more fluently, practice difficult pieces with patience, and express emotion through dynamics and phrasing. Each lesson was a step forward, helping him grow not only as a musician but as a person. The mansion visits continued, but now the boy's playing had a new depth. The guests noticed the improvement, whispering to each other about the talent before them. Even the billionaire could not ignore it any longer. Though he had not fully understood the boy's potential before, he could see the attention and admiration the young musician was receiving. Slowly, he began to recognize that there was something remarkable about this child, who had been largely overlooked. With the teacher's guidance, the boy also began participating in small local performances. The first few were nerve-wracking, but he quickly learned to channel his nerves into his playing. Each audience, though small, was captivated by the depth and emotion of his music. He began to understand the power of performance, the connection between musician and listener, and the joy of sharing his gift with others. His confidence grew with each performance, and so did his determination to continue improving. The boy's relationship with his mother deepened during this time. They shared long evenings talking about music, life, and dreams. She encouraged him to keep pushing forward, reminding him that talent alone was not enough. Perseverance, hard work, and dedication were just as important. She never doubted him, and her faith gave him strength even when challenges arose. Together, they celebrated every small victory, from a perfectly executed piece to praise from a teacher or audience member. As the boy's skill grew, so did the whispers of admiration among the mansion staff. They began to speak more openly about his talent, sharing stories and encouraging others to listen when he played. Some guests, intrigued by the rumors, began paying closer attention. Slowly but surely, the boy's music began to make an impact, reaching people who had the power to provide real opportunities. Despite the growing recognition, the billionaire remained somewhat distant. He was still preoccupied with wealth and appearances, and while he could no longer ignore the talent completely, he did not yet fully understand its significance. The boy did not let this discourage him. He knew that recognition could come slowly, and that the most important thing was to continue developing his skill and expressing himself through music. One afternoon, the music teacher brought an invitation for the boy to participate in a local music competition. It was not a grand stage, but it was a beginning, a chance to test his abilities in a real performance setting. The boy was nervous but excited. He practiced diligently every day, perfecting his pieces and imagining the moment he would step onto the stage. His mother supported him every step of the way, offering encouragement and helping him maintain focus. The day of the competition arrived, and the boy walked onto the stage with a mixture of nerves and determination. The room was filled with other young musicians, parents, and teachers. As he began to play, the nerves melted away, replaced by the music itself. The audience was captivated by the depth, emotion, and technical skill of his performance. Each note told a story. Each melody carried emotion, and the boy poured his heart into every sound. When the performance ended, the audience erupted into applause. The boy felt a rush of pride and excitement, knowing that his music had touched people's hearts. He looked for his mother in the crowd and saw her beaming with pride. For the first time, he felt that the world might begin to see what he had always known, that his talent was extraordinary. News of the boy's performance spread quickly. The music teacher shared the story with colleagues, other teachers, and potential sponsors. Slowly, doors began to open, offering lessons, opportunities, and the chance to perform in more significant venues. The boy's world, once small and limited to his apartment and occasional mansion visits, began to expand. Each new opportunity was a step forward, a validation of the years of dedication, practice, and love for music. The billionaire, now fully aware of the attention the boy was receiving, could no longer ignore it. He began to watch more closely, realizing that he had underestimated the child he had once dismissed. Though he was not yet entirely comfortable with the idea, a sense of admiration and perhaps regret began to grow. The boy's talent had become impossible to overlook, and the impact of his music was undeniable. At home, the boy continued to practice diligently, never letting success make him complacent. Each new lesson, performance, and opportunity was approached with humility and dedication. He understood that talent was only part of the journey, and that hard work, perseverance, and the guidance of those who believed in him were equally important. The boy's story was now reaching more people, and the foundation of recognition was being built. He had moved beyond being a hidden talent in a small apartment, and the world was beginning to notice. With his mother by his side, a skilled teacher guiding him, and opportunities slowly appearing, the boy was on a path that could transform his life forever. Through all of this, he remained humble, kind, and focused. His music was never about fame or wealth. It was about expression, connection, and the joy of creating something beautiful. Each note played was a reflection of his heart, and each melody was a step toward the future he dreamed of. And so, the boy's journey continued, filled with music, growth, and the quiet power of dedication. The mansion, once a place of indifference, now held a new awareness of his talent, and the world beyond was beginning to see the extraordinary gift that had been nurtured in the shadows. The boy's story was far from over, but each day, each note, and each opportunity brought him closer to the recognition and success he had always dreamed of, proving that talent, persistence, and heart cannot remain hidden forever. The boy had come a long way since the days of practicing on the worn piano in his small apartment. Each day had brought new challenges, lessons, and opportunities. Now he was recognized by a skilled teacher, performing in competitions and slowly gaining the attention his talent had always deserved. Yet despite all this progress, he remained humble, remembering the long hours, the struggles, and the encouragement of his mother who had never doubted him. One day, The billionaire called the boy to the mansion. It was unusual as before. He had mostly been ignored except for brief performances at gatherings. The boy approached with a mix of curiosity and nerves, wondering what the billionaire might want. Perhaps this time he would finally be acknowledged not just as a child doing a favor, but as the talented musician who had been quietly perfecting his gift. As he entered the grand hall, the boy noticed a small audience had gathered. The billionaire stood near the piano, his posture more attentive than ever. The guests looked intrigued, whispers passing among them. The boy took his place at the piano and began to play. His fingers moved with confidence and skill, and the music filled the room, rich with emotion and maturity beyond his years. Every note seemed to carry a story, a journey of perseverance, hope, and dreams realized. The billionaire, watching intently, could no longer deny the boy's talent. He listened carefully, the depth of the music capturing his attention in a way that background melodies never had. He could see the dedication, the countless hours of practice, and the passion in every note. For the first time, he understood that this young boy was not merely playing for the sake of music, but creating something extraordinary, something that could move hearts. The audience was captivated. Guests whispered in awe, recognizing the brilliance before them. Some had attended many performances in their lives, but the purity and skill of the boy's music left them speechless. The room was silent, save for the piano, as the boy poured his heart into each piece, expressing emotion, story, and hope through sound. When the performance ended, there was a long moment of silence, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Then applause erupted, genuine and enthusiastic. The billionaire stepped forward, a mix of admiration and regret in his eyes. He spoke to the boy, praising his talent and acknowledging the years of dedication and hard work. It was the recognition the boy had long deserved, and though the billionaire's attention had come late, it was sincere. The boy felt a surge of emotion, but he remained composed. His music had always been for expression, for sharing joy and emotion, not for seeking approval. Yet this acknowledgement brought a sense of fulfillment. It was a milestone, a moment where the world, or at least this small corner of it, recognized what he had always known. His talent was extraordinary. Following this, the boy's opportunities expanded rapidly. Invitations came from local orchestras, music schools, and even international competitions. Each new opportunity was a chance to share his gift, challenge himself, and grow further. The music teacher continued to guide him, helping him refine his technique, explore complex compositions, and develop his performance skills. The mother, proud and supportive, stood by him through every rehearsal, every performance, and every new experience. The mansion became a place of both work and inspiration. The boy's music transformed the atmosphere, bringing beauty and emotion to a space that had once been cold and indifferent. Staff and guests alike began to appreciate not just his talent, but the dedication and heart behind it. The billionaire, now a witness to the boy's extraordinary abilities, became a quiet supporter, offering opportunities and resources to help him grow even further. Competitions brought challenges, but also triumphs. The boy learned to face nerves, adapt to different audiences, and convey emotion through performance. Each competition was a step forward, each performance a testament to years of practice and persistence. He began winning awards, gaining recognition, and inspiring other young musicians who looked up to him as an example of dedication and talent. Despite success, the boy remained grounded. He remembered the days of practicing in his small apartment, the support of his mother, and the quiet encouragement of those who had first believed in him. He continued to play with heart, letting the music speak for him. Fame and recognition were not his goal. Expression and connection through music were what mattered most. The billionaire, having witnessed the boy's journey from overlooked child to celebrated musician, reflected on the lessons learned. He realized the importance of seeing talent, recognizing effort, and valuing dedication over wealth or status. His admiration for the boy was genuine, and though he could not give back the years of neglect, he offered support, encouragement, and resources to help him reach new heights. At home, the mother and son shared quiet moments of reflection. They spoke of dreams, journeys, and the future. The boy had achieved what once seemed impossible, yet he remained eager to grow, learn, and explore the endless possibilities of music. His mother's pride and unwavering belief had been a cornerstone of his journey, and their bond remained strong, rooted in love, trust, and shared dreams. The boy began performing in larger venues, sharing his music with audiences who were moved by his talent and expression. Critics praised his skill, noting the emotion and depth of his performances. The music teacher continued to mentor him, ensuring that his growth was steady and meaningful. Each performance reinforced the idea that true talent, combined with dedication and heart, cannot remain hidden forever. The mansion, once indifferent, became a symbol of the boy's journey. It represented the challenges, the oversight, and the eventual recognition that shaped his story. The billionaire's change in attitude mirrored the power of acknowledgement and the importance of seeing potential in unexpected places. Staff and guests, once unaware, now celebrated the boy's accomplishments, inspired by his dedication and success. As the boy's fame grew, he remained humble and connected to his roots. He continued to play in the apartment, compose new pieces, and explore the depths of his talent. He remembered the early days of quiet practice, the encouragement of his mother, and the lessons learned from being overlooked. These experiences shaped not only his music but also his character, instilling resilience, humility, and gratitude. The journey from a small apartment to celebrated performances had been long and challenging, but the boy had never wavered. Music was his language, his passion, and his expression. It had carried him through doubt, neglect, and hardship, and it continued to guide him toward new horizons. Every note played was a testament to perseverance, heart, and the belief that talent, when nurtured and shared, can change a life. The story of the boy and his music became an inspiration. People spoke of the young musician who had been overlooked, yet had triumphed through dedication and passion. His journey reminded audiences that greatness can be found in the most unexpected places, and that recognition, while important, is only part of the story. The true reward is in the expression, growth, and connection that come from pursuing one's gift with heart and perseverance. As the boy continued to grow, he remained focused on his craft, guided by the lessons of the past and the support of those who believed in him. The mansion, the competitions, the teachers, and the audience all played a part in shaping his journey. But the essence of his success was always rooted in his love for music and the dedication that had carried him from a small, quiet apartment to stages filled with admiration. Through it all, the boy understood that his journey was ongoing. There were more pieces to learn, more compositions to create, and more audiences to inspire. Each day offered a new opportunity to express, grow, and connect through music. And as he played, he carried with him the lessons of perseverance, the love of his mother, and the knowledge that true talent, when nurtured and shared, has the power to transform not only a life but the world around it. And so, the boy's story reached a place of triumph, recognition, and fulfillment. Yet it remained a living journey, one filled with music, hope, and the quiet understanding that dedication, heart, and belief in oneself can overcome neglect, indifference, and obstacles. The young musician, once overlooked and underestimated, now played with confidence, skill, and a depth of emotion that touched every listener. His journey had begun in a small apartment, nurtured by love and perseverance, and now his music would resonate far and wide, a testament to the extraordinary power of talent, dedication, and heart.